My name is Nick Floyd. I have a long history with Magic the Gathering. I created the Dandan variant. Now I'm creating this. Welcome to Magic Storytime. Well, I did think of a trivia question, and I should probably ask it before episode 16, since I will likely talk about the general subject in that video. Today's trivia question is, in April 1999, Wizards released Classic 6th Edition. This was a core set that came with a huge rules update which attempted to simplify and codify the rules and make them more intuitive as a whole. At the time, some players thought the changes were an attempt to dumb down the rules of the game. Some changes that were made, like losing the game immediately when reduced to 0 life instead of at the end of a phase, the new stack replacing the batch system, and card type definitions, the interrupt and mana source types now just being instants, among others. But one major change had a huge impact on the way we played combat. This change didn't last, and to make things work more like it did before 6th edition, it was changed again in 2009, with the M10 rules changes. What was this radical change? Stay to the end of the video for the answer. This is episode 15, Wyoming State Championships, 1998. Though in general I have always been a pretty humble guy, I don't think it will come as a surprise to anyone that in the late 1990s I figured I was likely the best Magic player in the state of Wyoming. I mean, it was and still is the least populated state in the country. There are easily more cows than people. I guess it's a good thing that cows don't play Magic. But in October of 1998, we got word that there was going to be state championships, and that our state tournament was going to be held in the largest Wyoming town of Casper, Wyoming, some 4 hours north of Laramie. I felt like I had to go to prove it to myself at least. I had talked to the team, which had begun to call themselves Teferi's Pimps, after the Teferi's Imp card. I illustrated us t-shirts a few years later. We were very much not pimps, but it was the 90s and we wanted to be cool. My teammate Luke had interest in making the trek to Casper with me, but none of the other pimps or none of the other local Magic players wanted to join us, so Luke and I talked about what decks we would play. This was after I discovered the Magic Dojo website. I may be wrong, but my theory at the time was that the bad boys of Bogarton, my team in Rock Springs, had discovered the Magic Dojo sometime in 96 or early 97, but didn't tell me in order to keep it a secret from me. And that is where they discovered the Big Blue Walls deck that they showed me and convinced me to take to Mountain Regionals in the spring of 97. See the Intimidator video, episodes 1 and 2. Anyway, I knew of the dojo by the fall of 98. Now in some Magic circles, net decking is frowned upon. But my theory at the time was, though it is cooler and better to play and win with an original deck, if you are serious about playing Magic competitively, you should take the best deck you can find to a competition you are paying to play in, and there are prizes at stake. At times I took original decks, other times I played the deck that I thought would give me the best chances to win. This time, using the Magic Dojo, I found a deck known as Lackey Sly. This was after the Urza Saga expansion was released in October of 98, and the Thalarian Academy combo deck was out there and known. If you don't know this deck, it was infamous at the time, and extremely degenerate. Here's a list I found online, and I'll put a link to the MTG Goldfish video about the deck in the show's notes. While we didn't have the cards to put together Academy combo, even compiling the team's collected collections. But slide decks were pretty easy and cheap to build. If you don't know what slide decks are, that term was the last name of a player who popularized the deck style, but not its creator. It was a red aggro style deck based on mana curve, aggressive creatures, and burn, just trying to deal 20 points of damage as quickly as possible, caring little for the subtleties of the game like card advantage and intricate strategies. These kind of decks have been known by a variety of names over the years. You might know the strategy from All In Red or Red Deck Wins. They're all kind of the same strategy. Anyway, I built the Lackey Sly deck and was convinced it gave us the best odds of beating the other decks in the meta. Goblin Lackey was flying a little under the radar and allowed us to get extra Goblin to play very quickly. Because the deck ran 4 Cursed Scroll, we were even more incentivized to empty our hands and quickly. I thought it was a great deck. Luke took a little more convincing, but I believe that at the Hastings Friday Night Magic, the night before we left for Casper, I destroyed him in a game, and he was convinced too. I can't remember the exact deck list, and I believe we were short on the 8th Cursed Scroll, so Luke had to go with only 3, but this is an approximation of the deck we fielded. It was Wyoming, so there were not a whole lot of players signed up when we arrived in Casper, mostly local Casper players. No cows. The deck we brought performed well. Unfortunately, the Pimps didn't face each other in the Swiss rounds. Both of us made it to the quarterfinals undefeated. By this time, we had noticed that there was at least one player playing the Tolarian Academy combo deck, but neither of us faced it. In my semifinal round, I faced a white weenie deck with a splash of black. In our last game, he got a Sultari Priest in play and was killing me with pro-red unblockable shadow. I had most of my life left when the priest came down, and I was confident that I would draw into one of my cursed scrolls before the priest killed me, so that I could kill it in colorless damage, but I never drew the cursed scroll. I also made a huge mistake in that game, and I deserved to lose. So I guess I wasn't the best Magic player in Wyoming, at least not in '98. But there will be others, and now I got to root for my pimp teammate. Luke won and won again, so it was my teammate and the Tolarian Academy combo deck in the finals. We had prepared our sideboards for the Academy deck, and that preparation proved valuable because Lackey Sly pulled it out. Luke won and became the 1998 Wyoming State Champion. The 1998 Wyoming State Champion came from Laramie and was my teammate. I would try again a year later when the state championship moved closer to Laramie in the state capital of Cheyenne, and I would play a weird deck of my own creation. That is a great and odd story to tell for sure. That will be a fun one. Spoiler, I lose in the semifinals again. But the state championship would return to Casper in 2002, and I would try again then. And maybe, third time's a charm? But those are Magic stories for another time. Today's trivia question is, in April 1999, Wizards released Classic 6th Edition. This was a core set that came with a huge rules update which attempted to simplify and codify the rules and make them more intuitive as a whole. But one major change had a huge impact on the way we played Combat. This change didn't last, and to make things work more like it did before 6th edition, it was changed again in 2009, with the M10 rules changes. What was this radical change? Answer: the big change in Classic 6th edition rules was that combat damage now used the stack. Basically, and in today's terms, at the beginning of the combat damage step, all creatures involved in an attacking or blocking situation would have their combat damage go on the stack, assigned as the attacking and blocking players chose. Then both players would have the chance to add instant speed, spells, and effects to the stack on top of the combat damage. But most effects would not prevent the creature damage on the stack, and it would be dealt when the damage resolved at the bottom of the stack. This meant that a creature would still deal its combat damage, even if it was removed or otherwise left combat after this damage went on the stack. This was a tremendous change for us. As an example, it meant that one of our favorite common Tempest creatures, Mog Fanatic, could now be sacrificed after its combat damage went on the stack to deal 1 extra point of damage, taking out a 2/2 by itself or dealing an extra point of damage to an opponent on its way out. It was an interesting change, but a change that probably shouldn't have been made, and I'm glad they fixed it in 2009. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment.